when it's blooming.
Yes, it is nice.
Yeah. We're going to take another short break, and we're going to resume in his vegetable garden and have a look at his greenhouse as well.
This is Community Service Officer Constable Lauren Chipka. Sudbury Regional Police and the Addiction Research Foundation have begun a new program. Over the next 12 months, all non-drinking drivers stopped in regional police spot checks will receive a license folder. To thank you for being a sober driver. A message brought to you by the Canadian Automobile Association, your local IGAs, and MCTV, CJMX, and CHNO. We thank you for being a sober driver.
Bert, because you've got your greenhouse in existence, I think it's interesting that you put it to a little bit more use than the average person would. I'm quite surprised to see that you're growing your tomatoes inside your greenhouse, even though we're talking about the middle of August now.
Yes. Well, the thing is this, that I can keep them in there until November, first week in November, at minimal cost. And if I figure they're going to cost me $5 a pound, then I cut the thing out. I pick them all. But this particular tomato is called Moneymaker. I get it from Sutton's in England, the seed. And they will, even the green ones as they are now, if you pick them and cover them with paper, they'll turn red right through. They're very good for that.
With no loss of flavor?
No. And so the ones that I pick in November, they're ripe and finished by about December the 15th. So it's not bad. You know,
it's
not
not
really.
bad.
See, I have red ones there now.
Yes.
And I'll be picking now and see September, October.
You don't actually plant them into that spot, though. You've got your greenhouse in use for other things
yes.
early in the season.
Well, I have probably about 100 dozen annuals in there. I have a staging here that I put up, and that staging then I remove, and then I plant them into the soil. But I have to replace that soil quite often. You have to watch out with tomatoes like that, is because they can get disease that way. So what I do is to take all that soil out, it isn't a big job, and maybe just put it over there and bring soil from there and put it into the greenhouse. That is very important, quite often with tomatoes in greenhouses.
Okay, good thing to remember.
You can sterilize it or change it. You have a choice.
Yeah, well, sterilizing is such a tedious job.
Yes, so I just switch it. Like it's the same with sweet peas. The sweet peas, they'll get the yellows. So what I do every year, I take the soil out of the back of this bed and put it over there and bring the soil from there over here. And then you don't get the yellows. It's funny, you know, but they do, they turn yellow. If you see the sweet peas all yellow, the green, it's yellow instead of green, that's the reason.
And it means that the soil has been depleted?
Well, no, not really. It has a disease.
Okay.
And it's, you see, with a lot of these, the roots on peas and other things too, they have little nodes on, you know, and sometimes that carries a disease.
That will not affect whatever it is that you're going to be planting in that same soil over there?
No. See, they're not, there's a lot, it's like, I don't know, it's like people maybe. It affects one person, doesn't affect the other. So I don't even, I'm not an expert on that, but I do this and it doesn't seem to make any difference. I mean, I'm safe with my sweet peas. And so that's, now tomatoes sometimes, but the outside ones don't suffer as much as the inside ones. I think there's a difference here with the position, you know.
Would it be air circulation possibly affecting it too?
It's quite possible. It's very, very important, air circulation. I have the 4 vents at the top. I don't close the door, and I have this too.
Yes.
It's very important because tomatoes, if it's too hot, the blooms won't set. And it's been very hot lately. So it's a thing like that you have to watch. You can, I thought about putting a fan in there, but it's a lot of trouble. I have hydro in there, but I just swish a lot of cold water on the floor.
Yeah.
And that cools it down a bit.
Cool down. I see that you're gardening vertically, which is a good use of space too.
Well, that's true. Yeah, the thing is this, that I haven't that much room without making more room, you see, and I'm not going to start digging new beds this time. So I have the pole beans. There's a little hummingbird there, you see, and it's so cute, that one. It comes round, he has a go at all the flowers, you know, regular. And if any other one comes when that hummingbird is there, they kick up an awful noise.
They
I didn't know they could make that
territory.
much noise.
Well,
But
he knows a good thing when he's on,
he
that he's on
comes
to it.
around there, and of course if the bees beat him to it, he's got to go somewhere else. But the pole beans are doing very well.
Yes.
And we can pick off those every second day until the frost.
Those are reminiscent of Jack and the Beanstalk. They're
Yeah.
just about reaching the treetops.
It's too bad I have to get a stepladder to pick them.
Well.
I do, you know, because what happens with them, you lose a lot of lower flowers early, although you can see the beans, where you really get, when you get up there, they get in packs, you know.
Yeah.
And they're 10 inches to 12 inches long sometimes, and there's lots of eating in those, you know. We French them.
Yeah, but they're quite effective because the blooms are pretty. It's a lovely line, and you get the color from the blossoms, and you get to eat them besides, so it's not a bad deal.
No, that's one of the oldest ones I can remember, because as a kid we used to grow those in at home, you know. It's those red ones, I forget his name, but
Scarlet runners.
Scarlet
I think,
runners, see?
Now I enjoy watching those because you can actually see them growing day by day. It's just like magic.
It's really, you can, you know.
Yeah, it's
they
fun.
get twisted round those poles and they keep going, you know, and it's amazing. Of course, in this kind of weather, you must spray them. I spray them 2 or 3 times a day with cold water. But they need the water anyway down.
Yes.
But it does make a difference.
Yeah.
That is why I guess they do so well in England, because you could be standing here, then we get half an hour's shower and then we get the sun
Right.
back in.
Yeah.
So they enjoy that.
Yeah. These cherry tomatoes, then, as you come down on your trellis work, they fill in the gap.
Yes, they do exceptionally well, and they're very, very sweet.
We're busy watching the hummingbird.
Yes, he's having a great time with the flowers.
Yeah.
But those are, they're really they're easy to grow, and I'm surprised that more people don't grow them.
Bert was telling me, even though they're called Sweet 100s, he gets 150 out of his plants, so
Quite easy.
a good bonus for being a great gardener.
Well, I just, I feed them a little bit, you know. When I plant them, I always plant them with bone meal, and because bone meal doesn't burn anything, you see. You can get it right on the root itself if you want, you see. And then during the summer, I'll throw a handful of fertilizer in there and water it in. Well, I water them nearly every day anyway.
That's very time consuming by the time you go through your rounds.
But they will manage. You don't have to water them every day, but if you've got the water, you know, you can do it.
And then some more beans towards the ground.
They're bush beans, and they're very nice, you know, and they're a little earlier than the pole beans, so they will, they'll be over in about another week, and then I take them out and I plant the bed with perennials.
Well, so we'll have something more to look at in the fall. Unfortunately, we're running out of time again. It's always so interesting with this backdrop of moneymaker tomatoes and sweet 100s and the sweet peas.
Yeah.
We invite you to contact the Master Gardeners if you have any problems with your gardens, and we say goodbye to you from this very picturesque garden in Lively. Thanks a lot, Bert.
Well, thank you too.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Shirley Makala with the Sudbury Horticultural Society, and with us today we have 2 of our young master gardeners. Lori Tukar is one of them. She is an instructor with the Environmental Horticulture program at Cambrian College, and one of her graduate students has also joined us, Lance McKay. One of the biggest problems that gardeners are finding this year and for the next few years as well is the tent caterpillar. We all know that it's cyclical, and the rumors are that it will be at its absolute worst next year. So there are some controls that we can use now to control the populations for this summer, but there are other things that we can do to try to bring down the populations for the coming year and help for the gardening situation for next summer. Lance, what is the best thing to do at this time of year? Okay, they've eaten most of our trees, and some of them are looking pretty bedraggled. Is it too late to do anything now?
Pretty well to the adult caterpillars. If you're going to spray or anything, you should catch them before the second molt. So right now it's a little bit late. A lot of trees are pretty defoliated, but they should make a comeback. They should put another crop of leaves out by July or so. So it's not a total loss.
And technically speaking, it doesn't do a lot of harm to the trees, unless the tree is unhealthy to begin with, and then the extra stress of putting forth a second batch of leaves does put a strain on it. But
or the same tree in successive years getting hit hard by the caterpillars, it won't be able to produce as much food as it would require.
So obviously if we keep the caterpillars from attacking particular trees, we're going to be benefiting from it in the long run.
Yeah, you want to keep them off your favorite trees for sure.
Okay, there quite a lot of them now are into this cocoon stage, and they're in the process of developing into moths. If the camera can come in on this, we'll show you a few of the different stages, and it's rather interesting to watch. This little fellow is bunking in with a chum of his, and he's still pretty much in the same state that we see them when they're eating, but the one that's in beside him has already begun his hibernation, and he's just sort of dormant. This little one over here has already begun to develop some similarity to the finished moths. They're getting a little bit shorter and chubbier, and Laurie has one that is just a little bit more advanced yet, and it's kind of fun to see how these things change. This is basically the color that they become when they're into the moth stage. So in a few weeks now we're going to have all of these ugly little brown moths that are hovering around our backlights and what have you. If we remove as many of these things as we can, we're controlling them one by one, but it isn't really doing a lot over the entire scope of things, is it?
If you think for every caterpillar that you kill hundreds of eggs before they're even laid, or even kill them while they're in the cocoon state, they're easy to get at. Squish them or dump them into water. Okay,
so even one-on-one, it's not a bad deal.
Oh, if everyone killed 10, there'd be a lot less next year. Okay. Speaking of next year, in the spring, even before the outbreak of the buds and before they hatch, you can see them on the branches. They'd be in a band on the twig. It would be brownish, dark. It would look like a glue-like covering, dark, bubbly. It's pretty easy to see these bands on the branches if you just get rid of them, take them off the branches in the spring. And even when they do start to hatch, and you notice their covering, the web-like covering, you can either destroy the web by hand, and the cold weather in the spring, it'll freeze them or they'll die. Even if you can direct a jet of water at them, say you take your hose and your spray attachment, you zing them with this, it'll knock them out of the tree when they're young and destroy their web, so they won't have that heat during the night.
Yeah. So it's pretty sort of humane control when you do those types of things. Another thing that I've seen done that I don't totally approve of is people propane torching them, and I'm always afraid that we're going to do more damage to the tree than the benefit that we get from destroying a few caterpillars. Another fairly harmless control is to just prevent them from reaching a particular tree. Now their instinct is to climb, and there are ways that you can discourage them from climbing your trees.
Right, they don't jump from branch to branch like squirrels or anything. They go down the tree and then they waltz along. Sometimes in great numbers. In great numbers, they march along, and then they, attack another bunch of trees. There are ways you can stop them from going up particular trees.
And what do
I
you do?
haven't used any myself,
Okay.
but I know there are some.
Yeah, and I think you're referring to banding it.
Right.
There is a substance that some entrepreneur has begun to market, and I don't know too much about it, but what I have seen that works quite well is just a band of aluminum foil, and they can't grab their little
feet slip on the aluminum?
Yeah, so they just backtrack and they move on to the next door neighbor's yard, and that's fine with me. I don't mind them walking across my lawn and moving to the next house as long as they leave my trees alone. Plastic bags, grocery bags around there too makes it a little bit more difficult. Hand picking, of course, will do the trick if you can stand to touch them.
I don't know if they have any natural enemies either. If anybody has squished one.
Robins eat a lot of tent caterpillars.
They do. Well, let's hear it for robins, because they must. I wouldn't eat them, that's for sure. I've squished them and they're pretty green inside.
Laurie had an interesting idea earlier. She'd like to train them to eat weeds, and then that would eliminate that problem as well, but we're not sure how we'd go about training them. That we're still working on that one. What about chemical controls? If everything else fails and you insist on spraying your caterpillars, what precautions would you advise?
Well, according to this book from the Ministry of Natural Resources, Common Pests of Trees in Ontario, they recommend using, they say, if an infestation warrants protection, apply a spray as soon as caterpillars begin feeding in the latter part of May. They say to use carbaryl, bacillus, or methoxychlor. Methoxychlor. Okay.
Obviously, before you get into any chemical usage, make sure that you check the information either in this publication that comes out from, this is the Ministry of the Environment, Ministry of Natural Resources. This is called Common Pests of Trees in Ontario. And the other one is...
Publication 64,
and that
available
one,
on LaSalle.
Yeah, that one's the Insect and Disease Control in the Home Garden, and it lists the various ones. Laura, you were talking about a natural bacteria that has some success.